Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. I made a video the past couple of days talking about Hi-Fi Rush, how it bombed, and how the game journalism industry and Microsoft is pretending that it did not bomb, right? They are trying to preserve their interest, they're trying to protect the Xbox brand, they're trying to defend Game Pass. They are lying to you about the alleged success of this game. And this is obvious to anyone who's been paying attention. I've been calling this out since like about a week after the game launched. I shared that video at my community tab if you're interested in seeing that. But basically, like, I knew the game was not doing as well as they say it was right away. And even now, 3 months later, we're still seeing people like Jeff Grubb try and pretend this isn't the case. Oh, I don't know the budget. I don't know how much the game sold. Microsoft said it was a success, so that means it's true. No. Okay? You need to stop. That's clearly not true. That is absurd. That is ridiculous. We know too much about how many players the game has, how much it sold, how much it can have reasonably done on Game Pass to make the assumption that the game made its budget back, right? This is one of the most heavily marketed, like AstroTurf, virally marketed shill games this year so far, and nobody wants to talk about it, right? And this has kind of led me into this situation this realization talking about this, that I don't think anyone has noticed yet, in that, like, this sets a really bad precedent, because we are seeing Microsoft straight up lie about how successful their brand is. You know, you can't just go out there, everyone knows this, you can't just go out there and claim that, like, a game sold, like, 10 gazillion copies, and that it's the biggest thing ever, and like, to use that to, like, promote the game. Like, that's not how it works, right? That is, that you can't release statements saying a game is super successful, but because of Game Pass, because of, like, you know, Steam, and just, like, how convoluted the whole process has become, Xbox has gotten to the point where they are straight up making up numbers. They are straight up making up wild claims that some low budget, irrelevant, like, action game that's about 8 hours long somehow did extraordinarily well, you know, even though there's really no indication that that's true in any way, shape, or form. Like, they are being disingenuous. And of course, we've seen this with PlayStation as well. Like, right now, I've been talking for a long time about how they use bundles and like digital sales to kind of prop up their numbers. You know, they gave away a bunch of copies of Horizon Zero Dawn on a PSN to try and, like, bolster those sales numbers. Like, and again, that led to the situation we're in now, where Horizon Zero Dawn, like, allegedly sold like 20 million copies, and then, like, Forbidden West comes out to, like, absolute crickets. You know, there was a huge drop off in the audience, like, in between releases. And first of all, that proves that the game wasn't popular to begin with. Like, you know, people played the game and hated it. But second of all, like, there shouldn't have been that big of a drop-off. If the game was that popular, if it was that big of a deal, people would have stuck around for the sequel. But there was a severe drop-off. So, you know, PlayStation has this problem where, like, they like pretending their new releases, their IPs, are a lot bigger than they actually are. You know, I've seen them claim that, like, Crash Bandicoot was bigger than Mario back in the 90s. I've seen, like, all sorts of wild claims, like, regarding, like, the sales of their titles. You know, The Last of Us Part 2, they like to say, like, sold 10 million copies, which is nowhere near true. You know, like, that game bombed, like, right from the onset. Like, we're in this weird situation where Microsoft and Sony are straight up trying to lie about how much their games sell in order to present this narrative that they're popular or talked about, right? That's what we're seeing here. And that's what we're seeing with Hi-Fi Rush, is that we are seeing a game being sold to you on this basis that it is allegedly super popular and did really well in spite of itself, right? Like, that is the narrative they're trying to feed you with now. And I think that's unethical. Like, I think you can't just go out there and claim a game has done extremely well with no real basis in reality, right? Like, there is no they're being very vague about how much Hi-Fi Rush actually sold. And because of Xbox Game Pass, they can just kind of like lean into that and say like, oh, most people just played it on Xbox Game Pass, day one, right? That's why we can't just show you the sales numbers, because it doesn't properly represent our brand. They're using Xbox Game Pass to pretend that their games are a lot bigger and more relevant than they actually are. We have seen situations like them claiming that Sea of Thieves has 30 million players, right? Which isn't true at all if you actually look into it. But, they've done it. Like, I've seen them do it in the marketing material. Like, I've seen them, make these wild statements about about these games. And only with this Hi-Fi Rush thing, I think people are starting to notice and realize that, wow, Microsoft is not doing as well as they say they are. And unfortunately, Microsoft has Game journals by the balls, right? So if Jeff Grubb accidentally acknowledges that Hi-Fi Rush didn't do all that well, he has to go out and backtrack really hard. He gets that email from Microsoft you take that back. You don't talk about that openly. We have to pretend this game is successful. We have seen this kind of behavior a lot from game critics, to the point where it's safe to say they are straight up paid off by these companies in order to push narratives, right? I'm reminded very strongly of how Angry Joe released that negative Star Wars Episode 8 video, and then a couple of days later he came back and said he changed his mind and then gave it a positive score. Same general principle, right? That is, the company contacted him, told him to cut it out, told him, well, we won't continue to sponsor you if you do this, and so he backtracked, because it's not about actually talking about, the games and how much you enjoy them and the consoles and the service. It's about shilling them to the audience, right? If you take the shilling away from Hi-Fi Rush, if you take away the legions of YouTubers trying to call this one of the best games of the year, one of the best new IPs of this of 2023, you are left with absolutely nothing. There is nothing to this game that's really relevant or worth talking about at all. It is in no way remarkable or interesting, in spite of the insistence, the claims released by these kind of YouTubers. You cannot trust these people going forward. And this is a very good example as to why.